Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. We should get the first news about Festival of Legends miniset within the next couple of weeks. The miniset is inevitably coming. And in preparation for the upcoming miniset, I took a look back at the previous minisets that we have had. How did they affect the meta? Were they full of good cards, full of bad cards? How many good cards were in those minisets? Did they renew interest in Hearthstone? And actually the results are a little bit alarming. Let's take a deeper look. First of all, the latest miniset, the March of the Lich King miniset, was Return to Naxxramas. And what did Return to Naxxramas do for the metagame? Well, it gave us Construct Quarter, that made Death Knight even more insane. And then it gave us Blazing Transmutation, which buffed the already good Evolve Shaman. Yeah, that's not a great track record. Well, it also had Rake for Druid, and that brought questline back to Druid, but then again, Druid was still just a Ramp Druid. It just had a bit of a different early game survivability plan. No major changes, I mean, it's just Ramp Druid. Then it had Thaddeus, I guess, as well. Thaddeus is popular, but it's not good. It wasn't good before, it's still not good. Thaddeus Warlock, by the way, has been the single most popular list played since the balance patch, but yeah, you shouldn't, it's not great. And then it had some cards that only became strong later, after the rotation. We talk about cards like the Purator and Feldscale Evoker, which was just nerfed even. Really, really strong cards, but they weren't strong in the meta to which they were released. So yeah, Return to Naxxramas mostly buffed already strong archetypes. That's not great for a miniset. Then we had Moan Disorder, which was the Castle Natria miniset, and Moan Disorder did not buff an existing archetype that much, because it was really the Paladin miniset. Clash Action Lawyer, Order in the Court, then the Jailer. The Jailer was neutral, but it was mostly used in Control Paladin. It didn't have to be used in Control Paladin, you could still play the Denaturous version as well. But Moan Disorder, Paladin was doing really poorly, and Moan Disorder, boom, exploded Paladin into the meta. Then Moan Disorder also buffed Rogue a little bit with the Scribbling Stenographer, although another card, by the way, that was just nerfed, although Rogue was already part of the meta. So Moan Disorder basically changed one class. That was the immediate effect. Moan Disorder, even in the long term, has not been very influential. It had some cards that became good later, like All Fel Breaks Loose, useless when the miniset was released, but useful later on in the future metas. Atoniat Maw, Sightless Magistrate. There was some stuff in that, but overall, really weak miniset that all it did was change Paladin. And then for Voyage to the Sunken City, we had Throne of the Tides. What did Throne of the Tides do to the meta? Well, it buffed Control Warrior with a couple of really strong cards. And Control Warrior was already top tier deck before that. And then it was just buffed. And then Control Warrior, of course, was nerfed after that, and it still hasn't recovered. It was just nerfed to the ground. And then Throne of the Tides is actually an interesting miniset because it had a bunch of useful cards, but none of those cards were useful in Throne of the Tides meta, like Light Ray. Light Ray was played, but it didn't make much of a difference. Neptune the Tidehunter, Ancient Krakenbane, really strong card in Hunter now. A year later, because now Hunter got the spells to actually use Ancient Krakenbane, it was not useful for a year, for an entire year. Clownfish, Command of Neptune, Ozumat, K9atron. Throne of Tides was not bad by any means, but all of its immediate effects were just buffing archetypes that were already strong, and then gave cards that were for future metas that were not useful when the miniset was released. And this just keeps going and going. We have on Onyxia's Lair, the Fractured in Alterac Valley miniset, best remembered for Kazakhstan, and Kazakhstan really improved Ramp Druid, and Ramp Druid was top tier when Onyxia's Lair was released. We have Deadmines, United in Stormwind miniset, and Deadmines really buffed Questline Warrior. And Questline Warrior was also top tier already before it was buffed. So yeah. Deadmines also, out of all the minisets that have been released, Deadmines is probably the strongest. It just had a lot of really strong cards. But most of those were for later metas. Support didn't exist. And then, like, the designers had planned that, hey, these cards are going to be useful eventually. But they only became useful like 1 year from the miniset release. Really awkward stuff. And it doesn't get any better if we look at the effect of the minisets on like general interest in Hearthstone. For example, just looking at Google Trends for Hearthstone, alright, interest over time. Well, there is only one miniset over the past year and a half that stands out from just pure noise. That's Mow and Disorder, which actually turned out to be the worst mini set of all time, maybe. So, yeah, the interest just, you can't even tell when mini sets have been released here. They just don't appear. So we have mini sets that typically buff already strong classes, ignore weak classes, include cards that only become useful several months or 1 year later, and do not generate any additional interest in Hearthstone. I'm trying to find the right words to describe that. That's just abysmal. It's like boom, obliteration of everything that minisets are about. So minisets have actually been highly problematic, with their effect on the meta, buffing the wrong things, unable to generate interest, and yet players still generally want to buy those minisets because the cards have been designed so that the support for those cards comes 1 year later. So then you will need those cards at some point anyway, even if buying the miniset cards at the moment is just a little bit meh. Well, after that devastation, the question is like, okay, can anything be done about this? Do minisets just suck? Because there's been discussion every once in a while that, hey, what if there were 4 expansions a year, for example, instead of 3 expansions plus minisets? Blizzard might be very interested. They might make more money by making 4 expansions as well. That's a little scary. Anyway, the only way to increase the effect of the miniset and generate interest is to make miniset more stronger and stronger immediately as well. Right now it seems that minisets have a lot of cards that just lack support. We're already getting a small package of cards, and many of these cards seem to be designed for something that's months or even a year away. Not applicable immediately at all. So what's the point? It's already a small set. Designing so deep into the future, I just don't get it. Obviously, if minisets were made immediately stronger, that would have some side effects, because the general card pool would be stronger on average, so stuff like discover effects would be stronger, even stronger. Discover effects are already a little bit strong, like we have seen in Death Knight what strong discover can mean. And testing will be more difficult. Right now, balance testing with the miniset. If the miniset doesn't affect the meta, do you need to balance test it? Yeah. But it would be more difficult, obviously, if it had significant meta effects for many classes. And then, of course, Blizzard would ask, hey, is this worth the effort for the money that we get? Well, Hearthstone is super expensive anyway, so there's that conversation, but we're not really going into that conversation. Anyway, the next miniset is coming soon, and it will be interesting. I will take a look at that miniset also from this perspective. Like, are these cards immediately having an impact? Is the meta going to change? Is it the best decks that are actually going to be buffed again? Because looking at the last 5 minisets, most of them have buffed the good decks already, and they have been getting buffed more. So it seems that Blizzard has some process issues with making minisets help some of the weaker classes, and that just doesn't seem to be happening all that much. But we'll see. I'm actually not even sure if I want Blizzard to make minisets worthwhile or if I want them to have 4 expansions. Because 4 expansions means that they're just trying to get more money as well, which is not something that I'm thrilled about, considering the overall price of Hearthstone. I play World of Warcraft, for example, as well, and like World of Warcraft is much cheaper to play than Hearthstone, and it's a subscription-based game, so yeah. Anyway, I expect news about the next miniset within the next couple of weeks, and it will be interesting to reflect based on this. Is that miniset going to be good for the game or not? Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.